WWE Hall of Famer Hulk Hogan argues that current wrestlers look like they should be bagging groceries in a new podcast interview. Details on that, plus Bron Breakker will face Seth Rollins for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship next week on WWE NXT. Baron Corbin is the new #1 contender for the WWE NXT Championship. Nathan Frazer wins the NXT Heritage Cup. Los Lotharios make their presence felt as they return to NXT last night. Mustafa Ali also appeared on the developmental brand once again. We've got the ratings for this week's edition of Monday Night Raw. Von Wagner, a hint to a change to his character. A new NXT Tag Team is coming soon. Kofi Kingston gives an update on his return from his ankle injury. And Alison is back at the WWE Performance Center. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of World Wrestling Entertainment. Let's start off talking about Hulk Hogan. Yes, Hulk Hogan has been making some waves, some comments he's been doing recently. He's on a bit of a media tour. And WWE Hall of Famer Hulk Hogan has criticized the looks of modern wrestlers, comparing them to the monster-sized stars of his era. Now, it's no secret that the top stars of today are, in general, smaller than the titans of WWE's golden era. This is both because of the rise of athletic and high-flying wrestling styles, and because, let's just say, wrestlers are generally making healthier decisions nowadays. Is that fair to say? Speaking on the Full Send podcast, Hulk Hogan shared his honest thoughts on the physiques of the current wrestlers, noting, quote, "All of the guys I wrestled look like monster-sized, and nowadays there are a lot of guys that look like wrestlers and a lot of guys that don't. A lot of guys that look like wrestlers, and then you've got guys that look like they should be bagging my groceries. So the difference is how athletic the guys are. Smaller guys can do all kinds of crazy stuff. They do so much impressive stuff in one match. I wouldn't want to do that much in a year. But what does it mean?" Now, Hogan recently stated that a notable name, being Shane McMahon, pitched for him to return to the ring at WrestleMania 39 in April, but that, of course, didn't happen, but he's still trying to tease that could happen next year. The reason I started with this story today is because, as always, I want to get your thoughts on this. Is Hulk Hogan right in what he's saying? A lot of people were outraged, talking about, obviously, Hogan's scandals and his past, but is he right with what he's saying? Are there wrestlers that look like they should be bagging groceries? Does that matter to you? Does physique and size matter to you? Or is it 2023 and all you care about is being entertained and the performance inside the ring and the character as well? Let me know your thoughts on this, as always, in the comment section below. Let's talk about NXT and the World Heavyweight Championship being defended on the developmental brand next week. With the new brand split in effect, WWE Raw has a champion of its own in the form of WWE World Heavyweight Champion Seth freaking Rollins. After winning the title in Saudi Arabia, then defending the title on Raw, Rollins is now headed down to Orlando, Florida. On this week's edition of WWE NXT, Rollins made a special appearance in a pre-recorded video, accepting the challenge of former NXT champion Bron Breakker. The two will clash for Rollins' World Heavyweight Championship during next week's episode. Breakker made the challenge on last week's NXT, explaining that he attacked Ilya Dragunov to prove he was the most intense superstar on the NXT roster, and followed up by challenging the Visionary for the title. This will be Rollins' second defense of the World Heavyweight Championship since winning the bout at Night of Champions. He defeated Damian Priest on last week's episode of Monday Night Raw. A former NXT champion himself, Rollins notably wrestled as NXT's champion against then WWE champion CM Punk, who visited the developmental brand in its fledgling days, mirroring Rollins' latest appearance and the upcoming match. Should Rollins escape next Tuesday's match with his title reign intact, he's agreed to face the Judgment Day's Finn Balor at the Money in the Bank event on July 1st in London, England. Rollins has also issued an open challenge for a title match on next Monday's edition of Raw, which you'll have to survive to get to next Tuesday's title match against Bron Breakker on NXT. Now, speaking of NXT and title matches, a match for the NXT Championship has also been announced for next week's show. Baron Corbin has earned himself a shot at the NXT Championship. During Tuesday's episode of NXT, Corbin defeated Ilya Dragunov to become the new #1 contender for the NXT Championship. Corbin got a slight assist from Bron Breakker, who distracted Dragunov with an attempted sneak attack mid-match, the latest confrontation in a rivalry, as I mentioned, that began last week. Corbin will now be facing NXT champion Carmelo Hayes on the upcoming 2-week NXT TV special Gold Rush. Corbin versus Hayes will be the main event, as I mentioned, of the second week, not the first week, which I incorrectly stated previously, and will take place on June 27. Corbin returned to the developmental brand on the May 30 episode and has been feuding with Hayes ever since. Despite his victory over Dragunov, Hayes, though, got the last laugh, attacking Corbin after the bout and hitting him with nothing but net from the top rope. Week 1 of NXT Gold Rush is set for June 20 and will feature Seth Rollins defending the aforementioned WWE World Heavyweight Championship against Bron Breakker. At this point, it seems likely that Dragunov will somehow get involved in that one would think. Several other matches for Gold Rush have also been announced, including Tiffany Stratton versus Thea Hale for the NXT Women's title and Wesley versus Tyler Bate for the NXT North American Championship, but that has a special kind of caveat to it, which we'll get into a little bit later on in the show. Let's stick with NXT and talk about Nathan Frazer. A title change took place on this week's episode on USA Network. A new NXT Heritage Cup champion was crowned on Tuesday. Nathan Frazer became the champion after he defeated Oro Mensah, who was the replacement for the former champion Noam Dar. Before the match even started, Dar came out to the ring in crutches and said that Frazer attacked him in the parking lot. Frazer has been feuding with Dar and his entourage for several weeks now. Frazer had some help from Ulyssa Leon and Valentina Feroz after Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson interfered and tried to cost him the match. With their help, Frazer was able to concentrate on the match and get the pinfall victory. Feroz even took to social media to celebrate Frazer's win, tweeting, quote, "Congratulations, you deserve it." This is Frazer's first title win so far in his WWE career. He has been with the company since October 2020 and made his in-ring debut on the January 7, 2021 edition of NXT UK. Before losing the championship, Dar had held the Heritage Cup for a total of 341 days and had 2 reigns with the cup. His last title defense was on the May 28 NXT Battleground event, where he successfully defended it against Dragon Lee. Though it's worth noting that Dar got the pin that night after Legend hit Lee with a bucket, while Mensah and Jackson were ringside to help Dar. Other past NXT talent that have held the NXT Heritage Cup include Tyler Bate and current NXT Tag Team Champion Mark Kofi, while the first star was to win it was Axiom, who was then known as A-Kid. So congratulations to Nathan Frazer. More main roster stars on NXT this week as well. Los Lotharios, they are back. On this week's NXT, the tandem of Humberto Carrillo and Angel, or just Humberto and Angel, Angel Garza that is, returned to the ring to attack Axiom and Scripps. The attack occurred after Axiom and Scripps overcame Dabba-Kato in a 2-on-1 handicap match. It is unclear if Humberto and Angel are aligned with Dabba-Kato or are simply targeting the two stars, as they blindsided the masked tandem with seemingly no reason given, though there is still some time for the team to make their intentions clear. Both men were last seen in a battle royal to determine the number 1 contender for the Intercontinental Championship on May 15 after being drafted to the Raw brand during this year's WWE draft. As I mentioned, they weren't the only Raw stars to appear on this week's episode. We had Seth Rollins appear on the show, recorded to accept Bron Breakker's challenge for a match. Also, Raw superstar Dana Brooke returned to NXT last week to compete in the Battle Royal. Other main roster members visiting NXT recently include Mustafa Ali and Baron Corbin, as I mentioned previously. Now, speaking of Mustafa Ali, we've got a bit of an update when it comes to Mustafa Ali moving forward. It has been announced that at this upcoming Gold Rush edition of NXT, Mustafa Ali is going to be donning the stripes because he has revealed that he'll be the special guest referee for an eventual singles title match between Wesley and Tyler Bate for the NXT North American Championship. I mentioned Dana Brooke as well. She did also appear again this week in a backstage interview to set up possibly a future match against Cora Jade. So what are your thoughts on all of these main roster stars appearing on NXT over the last few weeks? Do you like it? Is it a good use for them if they're not doing anything moving forward? Let me know your thoughts as always. Let's talk about Monday Night Raw, and let's talk about the ratings for this week's episode on USA Network, with Monday's Game 5 of the NBA Finals turning out to be the Denver Nuggets championship-sealing victory over the Miami Heat. It's to be expected that the game would negatively affect the viewership of that night's episode of Monday Night Raw. According to reporting from Showbuzz Daily, as well as WrestleNomics, both on their Twitter and Patreon pages, Raw averaged 1.595 million viewers across its 3 hours, which is down 13% from last week, with approximately 599,000 in the key demographic most valued by advertisers, that being adults aged 18 to 49, which is down 17% from the week prior to. The latter figure translates to a 0.46 rating in the 18 to 49 demo, which, despite the hit from the NBA game, was still more than enough for Raw to be the #1 show in Showbuzz Daily's rankings of Monday's cable originals. On ABC, the NBA game averaged 13 million... over 13 million viewers with a 3.98 rating in the key demographic. Among those in the key demo watching television at that time, 46.3% of men and 25.2% of women were watching the game. Perhaps thanks to NBA competition, Raw strayed from its pattern of peaking in the second hour, instead dropping throughout the show. For a more extensive picture, the WrestleNomics Patreon page tracks how Raw did in various demographics in relation to the median of the prior 4 weeks' numbers. By that metric, the biggest percentage change in either direction was a 38% drop from the median in women aged 35 to 49, followed by adults aged 35 to 49 with a 23% loss, women aged 18 to 49 losing 19%, and both adults aged 18 to 49 as well as men aged 18 to 34 dipping by 16%. The biggest percentage gain over the median was in female viewers aged 12 to 34 at 15%, followed by women aged 18 to 34 at 11%. So the Raw numbers down, but again, to be expected with strong competition this week. A bit of an update when it comes to Von Wagner and his character in NXT. It's certainly been a strange time for him recently. In the draft about a month and a half ago, 18 names from NXT were drafted and looked to be main roster bound. However, in the case of Von Wagner, he was selected as a free agent, making him able to appear on Raw, SmackDown, or NXT. And as it turns out, with the exception of one insignificant appearance in a Battle Royal on Raw last month, he's actually still just been on NXT every week. A storyline has been playing out with Von Wagner's manager, Mr. Stone, looking to get to the bottom of a mysterious photo of Wagner as a young child, seemingly showing him undergoing some kind of head surgery. The problem is, Wagner won't open up about what actually happened. Last week, Stone suggested Wagner should go to therapy, and after a couple of failed therapists that Wagner was less than fond of, he happened to settle on a very attractive female therapist who was actually played by Performance Center trainee Monica Clisara. Anyway, fast forward to last night. Stone and Wagner met up once more, and Wagner said he'd opened up to the therapist and she gets a lot out of him, but he hadn't talked to her about the photo. Wagner said he would only talk to someone he really trusts about the photo, and that person is Mr. Stone. But then he walked off. So this weird story, this weird saga continues, but it seems like we might finally get on the cusp of Wagner telling Stone exactly what the deal is with that photo and why he needed some kind of head surgery as a child. Even to the point we'd barely heard Wagner speak at all until a few weeks ago. So this storyline is already a big shift in character, seemingly with more to come. What are your thoughts on all of this? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about the head surgery. A new NXT Tag Team is coming to the developmental brand soon. WWE has announced a new tag team will be making its debut on TV soon as a recent influx of new talent continues. With 18 names being moved to the main roster in the WWE draft, the brand has been refreshed with a combination of established main roster talents moving in the opposite direction, as well as some debuting trainees from the Performance Center. That all continued on last night's June 13 NXT. As I mentioned, Mustafa Ali, Baron Corbin, Dana Brooke, and Los Lotharios all present, and World Heavyweight Champion Seth Rollins announced for next week. However, on the opposite side of things, there was a video promoting the imminent NXT TV debut of the tag team Bronco Nima and Lucien Price. Nima and Price have actually been teaming together pretty regularly at house shows and on NXT Level Up since August 2022, although Price was out of action for a couple of months earlier this year. So teaming together isn't a new thing for them, but it will be the first time they've appeared on NXT television proper. Both Nima, real name Edwin Grande, and Price, real name Nandmi Aguru, are former football players and were part of the March 2022 WWE recruitment class that also included some of the more established names like Roxanne Perez, Sol Ruka, Thea Hale, Channing Stax Lorenzo, Kiana James, Fallon Henley, and Hank Walker. So a new tag team coming to NXT very soon. Kofi Kingston, a bit of an update on Kofi Kingston's return from injury. Kofi Kingston suffered an ankle injury on the March 3rd edition of SmackDown after colliding with Drew McIntyre during a match. However, while the setback has kept the New Day member sidelined for a while, he's doing well and focused on returning to action. Quote, I had ankle surgery to remove a bone chip and fix a ligament after the massive Scottish behemoth of a man, Drew McIntyre, landed on my leg, he told the Battleground podcast. My body went east and my leg went west, and my ankle was completely sprained, but they took out some some bone chips and fixed the ligaments, and now I'm on the mend. According to Kingston, this coming Friday marks 12 weeks in the post-operation phase. Furthermore, this isn't the first time the WWE superstar had to deal with an ankle injury of this ilk, so he came into this recovery process feeling confident about completing it without a hitch. I actually had this same surgery on the same ankle about 6 years ago to have bone chips removed, so this time around I kind of know what to expect, and I've kind of been ahead of schedule for the most part. Kingston noted that he's been able to do everyday things fairly easily, but his goal now is to try and get back into the groove of being a WWE superstar. He said that he's been in Orlando for the last week working off some kind of the ring rust, and his training has been successful. In short, he hopes to return to WWE television in the very near future, but he didn't say when. So Kingston very much on the mend when it comes to his ankle injury. Finally, a bit of an update when it comes to the aforementioned Performance Center in Orlando. Near the start of 2022, Alison was released from her contract as a Performance Center coach by WWE. Normally, this might seem like business as usual for the wrestling behemoth, except this termination happened only 3 months after she was hired and uprooted her family to Florida for the job. Danger would later share her frustration in explaining her story on Renee Paquette's podcast. Therefore, it might come as a bit of a surprise that Danger was seen back at her old stomping grounds in Orlando earlier this week, likely serving as a guest coach per PW Insider. That puts Danger working back alongside her brother, former ECW and NWA World Heavyweight Champion Steve Corino, who has been a coach for WWE since January 2017, at least temporarily. In addition, it gives the woman in WWE's developmental system the presence and wisdom of an experienced woman in a coaching capacity, something that's been lacking since the dismissal of Danger and the reduction of Sarah Amato's schedule post-pregnancy. Danger, along with then Ring of Honor and current GCW announcer Dave Prazak, co-founded Shimmer Women Athletes in 2006 to help develop the women's independent wrestling scene when there was none. The Shimmer roster would turn into a who's who of the next generation of women stars, including not just future coaches like Amato and Danger, but eventual WWE and AEW stars like Bayley, Asuka, Britt Baker, Becky Lynch, Saraya, and Chris Statlander, among others. So good to hear that indeed she is back at the Performance Center. But there you go, guys. It's the latest WWE news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe bottom right hand corner. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.